Hey, cinema aficionados, Dan Patton, Screen Magazine. Today I'm sitting down with Leanne Webster. Leanne Webster endured a lot of hardship while she was growing up. She lost people she loved. She was forced to act like an adult when she was just a kid, and she was literally abandoned when she was on the brink of achieving one of her most precious childhood dreams. These memories are stored in a trunk that she unpacks on stage during a one-woman performance called Fancy Meeting Me Here. Ultimately, they become the details in the story of a remarkable life, and Leanne is a remarkable storyteller. And as she'll tell you now, it's all good.
So now I'm excited because I totally had a crush on him, and he worked at the Chess King, and I worked at the Casa Gallardo, and we were going to be like the Power Mall couple, and really, I wanted to go to prom. So anyway.
Currently, Leanne is preparing to perform a new piece for a live audience for the Moths Chicago Grand Slam competition at the Athenaeum Theater. The show takes place this Saturday, October 7th, but she's here now to give us a behind-the-scenes peek about how it all came about and hopefully where it might be going. Leanne, thanks for joining us. How are you?
I'm doing awesome, Daniel. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
I know I gave a brief summary about what's going on, but why don't you let people know what they can expect when they come to the show?
So what's happening at the Moth is it's their Grand Slam. So the Moth is they do storytelling events all over the country. So it is 10 people who have won a story slam with the Moth. And then they come together on Saturday, and the Grand Slam is a competition. The theme is making waves. And so there'll be 10 tellers, which are 10 storytellers, and then they'll pick a winner at the end of the night.
Give us a quick summary about what you're going to be telling.
Well, the theme is making waves. And so the idea is kind of, ripple effects or things that, have permutations beyond what you expect. And so I am going to talk about how I was the first person to host a speed dating event outside of the Jewish community. And I had the largest speed dating company in Southern California. And I'm going to talk about how that happened and also how I fell in love and then the surprising lesson I learned from falling in love.
So you fell in love during a speed dating competition.
I did, yeah.
How did you determine that this would be something that people want to pay to hear about?
I love storytelling and I love listening to others tell their stories because I think there's so much power in kind of looking at our lives and looking at how things fit together. Because, sometimes, especially if we're in a moment where things aren't going the way we want or the way we expected, then we can feel like sorry for ourselves or sad or frustrated or angry. And so if with the gift of hindsight, you can see like, oh, well, I'm glad that happened because of this lesson that I learned, I did this differently, or I met this person, or I took this action. And you can kind of see how things stitch together. And that's one of the things I want to have people learn from my story, because I thought that the relationship was about one thing. And now when I look back at it with the gift of hindsight, I realized there was actually a very different lesson and experience that I had, but it was because of that relationship.
And what was the initial seed of the story? Was it an incident or just the entire experience you felt might be good and then whittled it down into something that's, appropriate for the Moth?
Yeah, well, we're gonna set the scene. The opening scene is that we are in the green room in K-Rock, which is one of the largest radio stations in Los Angeles. And we're about to appear on the Kevin and Bean show, which at the time was the largest audience morning show in Los Angeles. And so we're sitting there and I talk about what it was like to be there and how I felt and what I was worried about and what I was excited about and all of that.
The Moth is a great thing to catch, while you're making dinner, like on a Saturday afternoon. And it's very solid, very thorough. The organization of the stories is fantastic. And they're always kind of funny and uplifting, but this is top notch. So how'd you develop?
Well, we got the theme about 3 weeks ago, 2.5, 3 weeks ago. So I couldn't start crafting it until I got the theme and kind of figured out how to fit in. And it's interesting because I originally was going to tell a story about how I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro in December and the kind of lessons that I learned and how that has permeated what I do in my business and in my life since I summited Kili. And then when I was practicing the story, I went to not a Moth, but I went to another story slam just to practice. And I thought, I really like this story, but it doesn't quite feel like it fits. And so then I went back to the drawing board and I thought, dating is always interesting. Right now, everyone's all fired up about Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. And, it's always kind of on people's minds, especially if you're single. And so I thought it would be fun to pull a speed dating story. And then it's interesting because I started crafting the story and then I met with a moth coach. And then she was like, I think this part of the story is actually more interesting. And I went back to the drawing board and started reworking it with a new kind of frame.
Well, what does a good moth story have?
Well, it always has to be about you. So you want to make sure it's not about somebody else. A great story, just in general, but especially a moth story, also has a defined, beginning, middle, and end, which sounds like a duh, but a lot of people, we've all heard those people whose stories, you're like, where is this thing going? You also want it to have a lesson of some sort or an insight of some sort. So it's kind of like, why are you listening? What can the audience gain from it? And finally, a really good story has, like an arc, right? Like here's where I was, and then this thing happened, and then here's where I am now. And ideally there's, kind of color commentary, right? Like give us a scene. That's the biggest thing. Give us a scene. Let us know where you're sitting somewhere. Don't just tell us that you were in the green room. Describe what the green room was like.
How many major revisions after talking to the moth people?
I'm still revising, which I got to practice. So I've got it down and I'm like 95% on it right now, as of this morning.
Well, it's intriguing to me because this story is more exciting than climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. Ladies and gentlemen, here's
I'm going to get up and tell an amazing story. You're going to be inspired and you're going to look at maybe love in a little bit of a different way.
Oh, that is awesome. Okay. and that's Leanne Webster. Now, besides climbing mountains and being on radio stations, you mentioned your business briefly. Let's get a quick plug in there. What are you doing when you're not climbing Mount Kilimanjaro or, one of the biggest radio stations in the country? What are you doing to pay that rent?
I am a keynote speaker and my topic is no regrets. So how to live life, no regrets, no limits, and really stop putting off those big goals that really matter. I speak on that, and then I'm a transformational coach, so I help people actually also execute on that.
You also have the one-woman performance called Fancy Meeting Me here. Is that going anywhere? There we are. Look at that. Which played the Dell Theater, so you missed it if you didn't get a chance to see it then.
No, I'm working on a fall-winter tour, so ideally Chicago again. I've got about 6 cities that I want to go to, so I'm working out all the details for that.
Okay, that's Leanne Webster, who's going to perform a story centered on a speed dating experience for the Moth Grand Slam Championship at the Athenaeum Theater. Are tickets still available? Yes, they are, but they're going fast. So grab them while you can. People want to learn about you in the meantime online. Where can they go?
Best is my website, LeanneMarieWebster.com, and that'll give you everything you need to know.
LeanneMarieWebster.com, ladies and gentlemen. Again, it's this Saturday, October 7th, Athenaeum Theater, the Moth Chicago Grand Slam. Thanks for joining us, Leanne. This is Dan Patton from Screen Magazine. Thanks for checking in, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks.